Hi, my name is Beth, and I am a programming assistant for the St. Johns County Public Library System, and you are watching In the Bubble with Beth. Today I am here with local artist Kasha Fahy, who's going to show us how to create a beautiful seahorse using oil pastels. So welcome, Kasha.
Hi everyone, my name is Kasha Fahy. Thanks so much for attending our online class today. We're going to be doing an oil pastel seahorse. I'm a graduate from Flagler College with a triple major. I have a fine art, and graphic design degree. I'm currently a graphic designer for a golf cart company up by our airport, and I love doing the art classes on the sides. I've been doing it with the library system, I want to say, for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for having me today. I just want to say, remember when you're doing this that all art is subjective, and don't be hard on yourself, whether you're someone that's been doing this for a while and is just trying to learn new techniques, or if this is your first time. Art is meant to be fun and relaxing, and we're really excited to have this. You can turn the video on and off, stop and pause whenever you need, and thanks so much for wanting to watch. So let's get started.
So to make this seahorse oil pastels drawing, you are going to need a piece of black paper and a set of oil pastels. The St. Johns County Public Library System was very fortunate in that we were awarded a grant from the Barbara K Foundation, and the grant allows us to have classes with our lovely Kasha, and they've also helped us buy some supplies. So each library location has a very limited number of supplies where you can pick up little packets with paper and oil pastels in them. But if you if we run out and you just have to, this is just it's kind of a thicker black paper, but you can use whatever kind of black paper you would like. And the oil pastels you can get from any art store or online. So Michael's or Hobby Lobby or Amazon, Dick Blick. And Kasha thought that maybe even Walmart might have the oil pastels. So a big thanks to the Barbara K Foundation, and let's go ahead and get started.
And so I've drawn out a seahorse template to utilize for this piece that can be downloadable through the website. So feel free to print that out yourself, and you can cut it out and you can have it be traced to start the project. So for us to get started, what we're going to be doing is actually placing our seahorse in the center of our black sheet of paper, but we want to kind of create a story. So we're going to be tilting him because, as you can see, he's kind of living or nesting in our kind of seagrass. And so what we're going to do is actually get him started and created first to create the layers, because he's actually in the background of our piece. So I had him straightened in the center, and then I kind of tilt him forward so you can see he's more angled towards the left with his nose pointed down, or his snout. So what I'm going to be doing is actually taking my yellow. You can also use white if you prefer, but I'm just going to be tracing the outline, and you can start anywhere. I'm just starting in the center. I'm having my 2 fingers hold down the piece, and we're kind of doing a nice curve, creating a piece. You can also find seahorse templates online if it's something that you would kind of like a different example or a different type of shape of a seahorse that you can print out and cut out when doing. Now you can see when you're like utilizing paper that things can like pick up. So I'm just gonna hold down this corner to kind of trace around. Now, a lot of times when creating a piece, you use templates if you're trying to focus on color versus drawing. If we were focusing this on being a drawing class, we would not be incorporating templates. But I always think that when creating an art piece, it's based on what you're trying to accomplish. And a lot of these classes are based on utilizing colors and how you formulate and use different compositions. So you can see for here that we're really going to be focusing on color, composition versus drawing. So now we have the basis of our seahorse template. So really what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be taking our yellow now and kind of filling in or forming the inside of our seahorse. So what I'm going to be doing is pressing down hard. I'm breaking my my oil pastel, and I'm going to be kind of filling in my snout area so you can really see this, and pulling in and going under. So kind of where I would say like his the bottom of his mouth or his jawline is with his snout. So I'm filling in because I'm wanting to create a layer system, which you can see here where we have yellow and orange. So we're starting off with the basics of the basics where we're incorporating our yellow. We're also going to be having that then go down to the bottom of the tail. And I'm pushing back and forth, left to right, and I'm pressing because I want to fill in that black paper. I'm not trying to have it come through. And I'm doing small strokes, small tight strokes based on the space. So I'm kind of filling in the tail. And then I'm coming up into the center and I'm filling in kind of the back portion of his fin and kind of his bottom part of his body that kind of wraps into the tail. And I'm also coming into the top part where we're seeing a lot of his like defining features or his marks. I love seahorses. They're one of my favorite animals. So we're going over that with yellow first. And then what we're going to be doing is taking our orange and also filling in. And we're going to be kind of going into the areas where we have a lot of the black. So I'm going to be popping up through the face here. And it's okay if it goes into the yellow that's on the head or near the snout. And I'm starting to kind of fill in this area with orange because we're layering what we're trying to make here. So kind of filling in those areas. And then we're coming it down to kind of drop into the belly where we have like a nice little curve. So again, we're really kind of trying to fill in these areas with orange. I'm okay with kind of going into the yellow to the bottom part of the fin. And there's not a right or a wrong here. So if your piece is not looking like mine, even now, just remember that's totally okay. I think animals in particular always have different types of character. So that's like really what makes this piece nice.
You can actually see that the two different examples that you have here, they're very similar, but they're different. They are slightly different from one another.
So I feel like too, when I'm making this piece, like there's times where as I'm creating it, I'm like, I think this would be better or this would be better. So again, like it's really, as I'm doing this, you're like, I don't really want to use this color. I would prefer to use something different. That's totally okay. So I'm kind of coming in with the orange and filling in the spaces. And then I'm kind of going to wrap it around too under the tail. So you can still see the yellow, but you can see that there's some highlighting points. And then if I'm seeing like too much is collecting, I can blow or knock some of it off. So we've kind of got a really nice base with this orange coming through. Then what I'm going to go through is I'm actually going to incorporate my red. Now again, my red's a little dirty from a previous lesson, but you can always like clean it with a paper towel, or like me, I'm wearing it with my smock. And I'm going to go in and use my red to kind of create some shadow points as well into the snout. So I'm kind of centerizing in the yellow here, and then I'm going to have it start touching under the orange and kind of pull up. And I'm doing a little bit of like a half crescent or a C to kind of help define that kind of jaw underneath the eyes. Oop, and I cracked my crayon, or my oil pastel, totally understandable. And then I'm going to be coming in with the orange, or with my near my orange with my red, and kind of, I'm very tightly moving back and forth and having this be a really nice divider as I'm coming down and working on my piece. I'm going to have it come all the way down. So you can kind of see it's like a defining line within the body of our seahorse. And I'm going to wrap it all the way down, all the way down, all the way to the tail. And as it starts getting around the tail, I just get it nice, a little bit thinner of how hard I'm pressing. So you can see we kind of have our yellow as our base. We created more of the orange, and then we're having the red start to create some distinctive like dark highlights, dark features on our seahorse. So in addition to that, we're going to be using, again, I'm going to clean this off. It's our more flesh toned pastel. And what we're going to be doing is, again, creating some nice highlights. So I'm starting to where we had our red and pulling that in to kind of create, again, a little bit, I'm like stroking back and forth, pressing hard, where I'm kind of creating that jawline. And then I'm also going to be going over the top of the red where it goes into the yellow and creating more of those highlighting features. And I'm going to, again, carry that all the way down. I'm pulling it a little bit more into the fin. So you can see here. And then I'm also going to be incorporating it into the red as we're moving down. So we're creating some really nice highlight marks. Now, I'm gonna start going back through with my orange to create some like defining features on our seahorse and kind of do some outlining. So I really think it's important for at the top that we try to make a little bit more where we have all these like ridges where we make it a little bit more triangular. So I'm coming in here around his head and starting to outline. And where I can see it creating a point, I'm making that more defined. So kind of think of like the tops of mountains or the tops of triangles. So I'm kind of going through and creating that. And then I'm going to go over my fin as well. So you're making it more defined, which I think is really important. And then I'm also going to kind of come under and have it be more defined under the snout. I'm going to take my yellow again, and we're also going to incorporate this with white, and also start doing some of those defining lines on the inside of the seahorse. So where we kind of have some of our, hold on, I gotta make sure that, where we have some of the markings for the inside of the seahorse here, you can do these with different colors. You can see that we've done it in yellow here, we've done it with some white and some orange here. I'm gonna be doing it with yellow now, where I'm kind of coming in, and it's, again, kind of forming those mountain peaks and creating some defining inside points. And I'm also going to be going into the orange and creating that, so kind of having it pop out here. So I'm kind of having that go into my orange. And then I'm going to do the same thing. This is a color that we haven't used yet. It's like a brown as well. And so we'll be going over that same kind of area, but I'll start at the tail and kind of, again, create those mountain point peaks. So it's sort of like a half circle that you keep using to incorporate. So it's all about kind of creating some inner texture within your seahorse. And I really don't think there's like a right or wrong way to make him here. So you can see we're kind of getting some really nice color textures, some nice movement, but we can also use our white to really kind of create some of these highlights too for our piece. But what we'll do is we're going to start with our kind of top of the head, and I'm going to press and start creating, again, those mountain peaks, kind of going along with the slope and just creating some really nice highlight points. I'm pressing, and then I'm going to also do this within the fin. So there's not a right or wrong way. Now, as you're working on it and you're like, this is not looking like yours, that's totally okay. So I'm kind of coming in and I'm doing some really nice squiggling. Again, let me see if I can, can I grab another sheet of paper? When we're working on doing some of the inside of the seahorse, we can really create some points where we're kind of doing a little bit of squiggling or doing some highlight accent points like this where we're doing the angle, or creating like really nice shapes where we're pressing and moving our finger or our hands. So we're doing that on the inside here. So we're really just creating some nice texture points. So again, it's not really, you're not doing anything right or wrong, but we're creating some really nice highlight points on the inside of our seahorse. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our white and go along the bottom, right above our orange, for the bottom of the snout. So you can see that we have our yellow incorporated, we have some darker tones, we have our orange. So we really have like this really nice kind of shadow to light part of our seahorse. But what we have to also do is incorporate our eye. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure that our white is clean, and kind of in the center of this orange space, I'm gonna circle and circle and circle until you see that I've got a prominent white to do the outside of my eye. And then I'm going to go in and do a smaller circle with my black. And then within that, do a little bit of a smaller circle. So I'm only doing like the edge. So we're giving our guy some character. What we do next is start creating him, he's just kind of floating on our black background. What we're gonna be doing is incorporating him into basically our seagrass or our kelp. So we're gonna take our yellow, and there really isn't any right or wrong. You can see that in both of these examples we have different shapes. So what you can do is you can work left to right, or if you wanna work in areas of your seahorse, what I think I'm gonna do is kind of start with my longer ones first that I wanna have reaching up towards the top of our paper. And so I'm kind of making some really nice curving movements. So if you can think of like creating some half circles or C's or sloping mountains, and I just kind of bring that down, and I'm doing a nice thickness. So I'm kind of going over them multiple times because I don't want this to be thick or thin kelp. I want this to be thick kelp or thick seaweed. And so what we're gonna be doing is layering this with our different colors. So I'm kind of creating this to be with our yellow first so you guys can really see it popping off the page. And then I'm gonna do one next to it, same kind of pattern, but it's just not as tall or not as high. Because we're creating different movements or different shapes. So again, sloping. And then I'm gonna do one that's a little bit smaller, and I'm being nice and loose with my strokes. And this, it's okay if some of the paper's coming through because we're gonna layer it with dark green and light green, so there's the opportunity for that to be covered. And then what I'm gonna do next is, this could make people a little bit nervous, so you absolutely do not have to do it. I'm actually gonna incorporate some seaweed over my seahorse. So what I wanna do is actually kind of like this one where I have it be a little bit tall. I'm gonna start outside of my seahorse, but then come in. And you can see that it's causing to mixture some colors. That's totally okay. I'm kind of having it slope across his body, and then I'm having it go around his tail and then come down. If you're like, I do not want to mess with my seahorse, you can just put smaller ones around him like this. That's totally okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do some smaller ones here. I'm going to do a taller one in the corner. It's okay if it starts coming off onto the page or coming off the page. I think it kind of tells a little bit more of a story. That's all about like where you place things or things like that. Maybe if you do this another time, you're going to want to flip your seahorse or put him more towards the bottom. You'll find that placement really helps define sometimes how something's interactive when looking at it from the viewer's perspective. So you can see that we've got the base of some of our like bigger, tall, and that's what we'll work on first. I have some smaller ones in the dark blue, but we're gonna get the base of our really nice tall kelp or seagrass. So then what we're gonna do is actually on the left of all of our seagrass, we're gonna start going over it with our light green. So I'm gonna go over. So I'm like kind of in the yellow. It's okay if I start going on to the black of the paper, and I'm just following that same movement because we're giving it more depth, more colors, and I'm gonna do the same thing when working on my one for my seahorse too. Bringing it down, bringing it around. And it's okay if you're like, well, this isn't really defined. It will become more defined if we use the dark blue or the dark green. So we're doing that with our light green. And then what we're gonna do is take our dark green and go over on the outside, so it's okay if it's hitting a little bit more of the black, the same way. And so kind of creating some darker, and I'm holding my paper down as it shifts. That's totally okay. So you can really start to see some definition. And then every time if you feel like you're getting some stubble or anything like that, you can go over it or knock it off or blow it off. And so now you can really kind of see the dark green is popping through. So you can see that he's hanging out in his grass, blending in. So we're kind of just making these like nice, thick seaweed. You know, you can see how when you're layering and doing the same shape over and over with different colors, how that can really define the shape of what we're creating. You can add a little bit of dark blue into these if you would like. I'm gonna turn and actually use the dark blue for some smaller, wispier sections, but if you want to create another level, you can go around that on the outside. So that's totally your call as an option. But what now I'm gonna do is actually try to do thinner strokes with my dark blue and kind of blend that in between. So it's the same shape, but I'm trying to have it interweave between these, and they're all gonna be different lengths. So I'm gonna kind of have this one come up. I'm gonna have this one be a little short. And so for me, there's not like a right or wrong pattern, or there's not like a defining, like you have to have it be this length or this length. You just, all of them are gonna be different. And I'm doing this only with my dark blue right now. And I'll do one that's a little bit smaller on this end. Now, if you want, I am gonna do this. You can go back to your dark green and kind of have that go in through the dark blue. Or you can leave it be as is. If you really like how that color is intermixing with your other grass that's been developed, that's completely fine. The last section that I'm gonna use is actually like my light blue. And I'm gonna start doing thin, like again, thin. So it's all about layering, but with this, it's interesting with how the black paper is kind of being used to help create some positive and negative space when we're looking at this as well. So it's just different lengths. So some of them, it might be that you have a little bit less. Some of these you're like, well, I want a little bit more of a kelp jungle. So it's really, you know, what are you trying to define? Or maybe you don't know and you're figuring it out as it's being created, like you can see here. And if you want, you can go over either with the yellow or light green into your blue, into your light blue. So I think I'll do a little bit of yellow into my, but I think this can be really fun. You can experiment. This could be a way if you want to kind of do something more abstract where you want to maybe use like reds or things like that, if you wanted to try to create a different type of piece where it would not anything be a little bit more traditional with the colors. So there's no end or limits to what you can create here. So a lot of people could be looking at this and saying that they just want to keep the black paper as it is and their piece is complete. But you can see that we incorporated different types of, like, a little bit of, I call them squiggles, or a little bit of a background where you're having a little bit more texture and line formation. So I'm going to show you by using our light blue, and we want this to be nice and clean. We're going in and I'm making really small, tight, and I'm going back and forth and stacking on top of each other to kind of create that same base. And I'm going to be going in and incorporating that into my black space between some of my kelp, not all of it, but some of it, to kind of help define where I want there to be showcasing that there's water. So I'm kind of coming in and featuring it here, and then as well. So this will be different based on everyone and how their kelp and everything is formatting on their paper. Some of it can be tight. I've had it where it's loose, but this is more tight. But again, there's not really a right or a wrong. And so we're using our light blue to define that first. Then we're going to be going in and doing it again with our dark blue. And I'm going over, and that one I'm being a little bit looser. It's not as tight as the light blue background. And I'll finally be going over the last little bit of it with white. And I'm doing that the loosest of them all. So really kind of showing how tightly making something and then kind of loosening up, how that creates texture and form as well, with the colors laying over top of each other. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the class. I really appreciate all of the support. I thank the library and the foundation as the grant for allowing me to be able to do this today. I hope everyone's staying safe. I look forward to seeing you again in person whenever that will be, but thank you so much again, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to do more art classes.
Well, thank you so much, Kasha. This is the first of our Barbara K. Foundation series of classes, but there will be more classes. There'll be one a month, October, November, and December. And you can always come back and watch this one from September at any time. So thanks again, Kasha. We had a lot of fun. Really love to see the Seahorse oil pastel picture that you created. Tag us on social media. If you post your picture on Facebook, tag us at SJCPLS. And if you tag us on Instagram, do hashtag #ILoveSJCPLS. We really can't wait to see your pictures, and we hope to see you soon at the library. Have a great day.